We've all been there, right? You've had the manager who makes you absolutely dread Monday mornings. And then, if you're lucky, you've had the one who makes you feel like you can take on the world. The difference is just staggering. But what is it? What really separates the two? It's not just about tasks and deadlines. It's something way, way deeper.
Okay, just let that sink in for a second. This quote from Paul Hawken, it really flips the script. It's not about avoiding problems or just ordering people around. It's about turning challenges into these compelling puzzles that actually get a team excited and curious. It's all about inspiration, not just instruction.
And that's the big question, isn't it? How do you go from just being a supervisor to being a genuine source of motivation? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down here. We're going to dig into the blueprint for what makes a manager truly great. Okay, so let's dive right in. Before we can get to the arts of making problems interesting, we've got to understand the science behind it all. You know, every great manager, they build their craft on a really solid foundation of core principles. Now, I know, this looks like something straight out of a textbook, but the keywords here are actually incredibly powerful. Efficiently means doing things right, not wasting time or money. And effectively means doing the right things, the things that actually achieve the goal. But the most crucial part? It all happens by integrating the work of people. You're not just managing tasks, you are orchestrating human potential. And here's the thing, this isn't a one-and-done checklist, it's a continuous cycle. You plan for the future, you organize all the resources to get there, you lead and motivate your people, and then you control the system to see how it's all going. And that feedback, it feeds right back into your next plan. It's a loop that literally never stops. So we've got the process down, but what does a manager actually do all day? Well, a really renowned management expert, Henry Mintzberg, he wanted to know that exact thing. And he came up with this brilliant idea that managers are constantly switching between 3 different hats, depending on what the situation calls for. So it all starts with the interpersonal hat. This is the foundation, right? The human side of the job. You're a figurehead, kind of the symbolic head of the team. You're a leader, motivating them from within. And you're a liaison, building those outside networks that help everybody succeed. And once you have those relationships solid, you can effectively put on your informational hat. This is where the manager becomes the team's nerve center. You're a monitor, always scanning for important information. You're a disseminator, making sure that info gets to the right people. And you're a spokesperson, communicating your team's value to the rest of the world. And all of that, the people skills, the information, it all leads up to this, the decisional hat. This is where you actually make things happen. You're an entrepreneur, sparking new ideas. A disturbance handler, putting out fires. A resource allocator, making the tough calls about who gets what. And a negotiator, pushing projects across the finish line. It's a serious juggling act. And juggling those roles is tough enough, but today's managers are facing this incredible lineup of complex challenges. You've got technology, globalization, ethics, diversity, but look at that last one. Happiness and meaningfulness, because you could argue it's the one that underpins everything else. It's the real key to getting a true competitive advantage. And this right here is where we shift from the science of management to the art. See, mastering all those roles and functions we just talked about, it's all in service of a much higher goal, creating an environment where people feel like their work actually matters. Because when work has meaning, trust me, everything changes. To really wrap our heads around the raw power of meaning, we're going to look at a fascinating study by Bunderson and Thompson, and it's about a group of professionals you might not expect, zookeepers. I mean, seriously, think about it. It is a demanding job, often requires a lot of education, but the pay is low, and there's almost no career ladder to climb. On paper, it makes absolutely no sense. So what's the pull? It turns out they feel a calling, a deep personal and moral connection to their work. Wow, just listen to the passion in that. I'm going to be cold and snowy. I'm out of bed and I'm here. This isn't just a job for this person. It is a fundamental part of who they are. And that is the incredible power of a calling. It makes sacrifice feel like purpose. But, and this is a huge but for any manager, this intense meaning is a double-edged sword. On one hand, yeah, it creates unbelievable job satisfaction and commitment. But on the other, it can make people vulnerable to burnout, even exploitation, because they are willing to sacrifice so much. One zookeeper in the study even said the job cost them their marriage. So the lesson here isn't to take advantage of that sense of calling. It's to build a healthy and sustainable sense of purpose. Great managers don't just hope their team finds meaning, they actively build it. And the good news is, it doesn't take some massive overhaul to make a huge difference. So check this out. Let's look at this famous study from a researcher named Adam Grant. He worked with university fundraisers, which is a tough, often thankless job. But after this tiny 5-minute intervention, their weekly fundraising shot up by, get this, 171%. No, that is not a typo. So what kind of magic wand did they wave? And here's the kicker. The fundraisers didn't get a raise. They didn't get new scripts. The only thing that changed was that for 5 minutes, they met a student whose scholarship was funded by the money they raised. They saw the human impact. They connected to the why. That's it. That's all it took. So how can you actually do this? Well, researchers Quinn and Thakor lay out a really practical roadmap. First, you've got to discover the real human purpose of your organization. Then, you make that a constant message, not just some slogan on a poster. You actively connect people to that purpose, just like in the fundraiser study. And finally, you find and empower the positive energizers on your team. The people who just naturally lift everyone else up. Because this, right here, this is the end game. As former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz says, when you get this right, when you build a team that is genuinely united by a shared purpose, the potential is just limitless. It's not about hitting targets anymore. It's about creating something that truly matters. So I'll leave you with this question. This isn't about becoming the perfect manager overnight. It's about taking one small, intentional step. What is one thing you can do this week to bridge that gap between a daily task and the bigger why? Because that single connection, that is where good management becomes great.